gonna change my personality. Ain't nobody, they can't fire me. I make too much money to get fired. So they can't fire.
I can tell you, I also spoke as co-chairman of Disney, the boss, Jimmy Pitaro, who made it very, very clear we are taking this matter very seriously.
And no shock here. Shannon is boiling. He's out here dragging ESPN, calling them out for giving Chuck a free ride while he got kicked to the curb. He's got lawsuits hanging over his head, tight morality clauses, and a boss micromanaging every move he makes. But Chuck? Man, Chuck's playing by his rules. He's making it crystal clear to Shannon exactly who's in control and who isn't. So what's really going on? Why is Charles untouchable while Shannon got tossed out like yesterday's news? Let's break it down. Chuck recently popped up on Outkick's show with Dan Dakich and made some jaw-dropping comments about ESPN. He basically told the network he ain't talking about the Lakers, no matter who's signing his checks. Chuck said he's gonna say whatever he feels, and if they don't like it, they can bounce. Like, who says that to their employer and gets away with it? Normally, someone in Chuck's shoes would bend over backward to please the big bosses. But Chuck, he's out here knowing ESPN won't touch him because they can't. His deal's too big, his name's too strong, and his voice brings in way too many eyeballs. Shannon knows it too, and that's gotta sting. While he's stuck under a microscope, Chuck's living like a king. If anyone's winning in this whole messy game, it's Barkley, and he's milking it for every dollar and every ounce of power.
Barkley has reportedly agreed to a 10-year deal with TNT that's estimated to be worth over $100 million. Let's be honest, Barkley is arguably one of the most popular sports studio analysts out there, and he's in a landscape where salaries for sportscasters have just changed dramatically over the years. And if TNT were to let him go, it'd just be terrible. Just terrible.
Charles Barkley straight up said it with his chest, "Ain't nobody firing me, I make too much damn money." And he's not bluffing either. Chuck made it very clear that if ESPN even thinks about firing him, they'd still have to cough up cash for the next 7 years. So basically, he's getting paid whether he stays or dips. He even joked he'd quit long before that, but if they want to fire him, I'd love for them to do that, he said with a smirk. At this point, the only real conversation Barkley's having is with himself about how long he feels like working. No stress, no fear, no begging for airtime, and definitely nobody at ESPN telling him what to say or how to say it. Period, he said, and he meant it. Chuck signed that insane 10-year, $210 million deal back in 2022, and it wasn't just any analyst gig. He's the face of the most-watched basketball pre-game and post-game show out there. That's big boy status, and with deals like that, the money's guaranteed. So even if Chuck breaks the mold or says something wild on air, ESPN can't just pull the plug. They'd still be stuck paying him every cent. And here's where it gets juicier. Chuck's not planning to hustle into his 70s like the rest of the ESPN grind crew. He's made it very clear. He's not trying to die behind a desk. He wants to retire, chill out, and enjoy that fat paycheck while he still can. Meanwhile, you've got Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharpe sweating bullets trying to keep their slots. Those dudes need to stay in good graces because when their contracts run out, they're hoping for another round of deals. That means walking on eggshells, playing by the rules, and definitely not ruffling feathers like Chuck does. Barkley's playing a whole different game, and ESPN, they're stuck watching him win it. Earlier this year, Charles Barkley dropped a straight-up bomb on NBA TV, and people couldn't believe their ears. He said, "I ain't going nowhere other than TNT, but next year, that's it for me. I'm done with TV."
Personally, I wanted you guys to hear from me because I'm not doing any more interviews. Don't y'all be calling me. Nobody calling me. I'm not talking about this again, but I want to tell my NBA and NBA TV and TNT family that I'm not going to another network, but I'm going to pass the baton to either Jamal Crawford or Vince Carter or you, Steve. But next year, I'm going to just retire after 25 years, and I just want...
And get this, he wasn't bluffing, and he definitely wasn't fishing for a bigger paycheck. Chuck flat out said he's already had convos with other networks, and he ain't interested in signing with any of them. He's made his mind up. So while others are out here begging for renewals and better contracts, Barkley's walking away like a boss with nothing to lose. Fast forward to his latest sit-down on Outkick, his energy still the same, calm, chill, and totally unbothered. He's been in talks with ESPN about how long he plans to stick around, but let's be real, Chuck isn't trying to finish out that 7-year deal. He made it very clear. There's no way he's staying that long. He's already looking for the exit. And here's the wild part. If ESPN does try to fire him before then, they still got to drop every single dollar owed on that contract. That's over $200 million just to send him home. So yeah, he's got the upper hand and he knows it. To make things even messier, Barkley also said he's got zero interest in showing up on ESPN's other shows like Get Up, First Take, or SportsCenter. None of it excites him. He's not here to be paraded around like some hot new toy. And honestly, that's what ESPN was probably hoping for. With TNT losing its NBA broadcasting rights, ESPN is snatching up inside the NBA for next season, and you already know they want Chuck front and center. But Chuck's like, nah, I'll do the show, but I'm not out here doing the extra grind. ESPN wants to squeeze every dime out of this deal, but Barkley is already setting his boundaries. He's showing them exactly what he signed up for, and it ain't running around to every set with a mic in his hand. So now the tension's bubbling because ESPN wants more, but Chuck, he's giving them less and still getting paid like a king. Like we said before, Chuck ain't interested in clocking in more hours, and he's been loud and clear about it. Man doesn't even want to work. And if that wasn't enough, here's the kicker. He's not thrilled about sharing the spotlight with loudmouths like Stephen A. Smith or Kendrick Perkins. Now let's talk about that shade. Chuck didn't hold back. He literally said Kendrick Perkins can't tell the difference between a hole in the wall and his own booty hole. Like, what? That's straight up disrespectful and hilarious all at once. So yeah, don't expect to see them sitting side by side on any ESPN set anytime soon. Chuck's got zero interest in playing nice, and ESPN knows he's a lot to handle. But while Chuck's out here bending rules and cashing checks, guess who's sitting salty on the sidelines? Yep, Shannon Sharpe. He's still fuming watching the same network that cut him loose bend over backwards for Barkley, and all over a lawsuit tied to a messy situation that ESPN clearly didn't want to touch. Word on the street? Shannon had a few choice words for his coworker behind the scenes, but before he starts popping off and pulling a full-blown meltdown, he needs to take a step back because he and Barkley, they're playing two completely different games. Let's keep it real. Shannon doesn't bring the same kind of firepower to ESPN that Chuck does. The New York Times even reported that Shannon's pulling in around $6.5 million a year just to show up 2 days a week and argue with Stephen A. Smith on First Take. Respectable? Sure, but replaceable? Absolutely. Chuck, on the other hand, is in a whole other league. That man's a walking brand, a sports icon with crossover appeal, and ESPN knows it.
The only decision we've been making is how long I'm on work. And I've been going back and forth with TNT for the last 2 months, whether I'm gonna work 2 years or 3 years. But if I really wanted to, I could stay for 7 years, which there's no chance of that happening. Zero.
So while Shannon's out here trying to keep it together during a civil lawsuit involving a young woman barely old enough to drink, ESPN ain't about to risk their image or bag for him. And don't forget, this is Disney we're talking about. Behind ESPN is a family-friendly giant that's all about protecting its brand and avoiding bad press. So when it comes to hiring or keeping talent, they're moving like a business, not a loyalty club. If you bring heat without the baggage, you stay. If you're a risk, you're gone. Simple as that. Let's talk about Disney's secret weapon, the morality clause. It's tucked inside every contract, and trust, it ain't just there for decoration. This clause gives Disney the power to drop you like a bad habit if you mess up and bring any heat to their squeaky clean image. The wording? Sneaky vague on purpose. They'll say things like public disrepute, humiliation, or just plain scandal. All that legal fluff that gives them the freedom to cut ties with anyone they want whenever they want. So no, Shannon Sharpe didn't just get booted for nothing. Let's be real, he messed up big time. We're talking about a 56-year-old man reportedly linked to a 19-year-old girl. Yeah, that kind of drama doesn't sit right with the Disney execs. It's not even about whether something illegal happened. It's about the look. And this? It looked real bad. And where was his team in all this? After that Instagram scandal last year, when the whole internet got a full tour of his bedroom, you'd think somebody around him would have said, bro, make her sign an NDA. But nah, Shannon just kept doing whatever he felt like, and it finally caught up with him. Disney's not out here making reckless calls. When someone becomes a liability, they move fast. And in Shannon's case, insiders are saying he might already be banned from the network entirely. That's right, banned. One source claimed his career at ESPN is done. Finito, no comeback tour. But then, plot twist, another insider spilled that Shannon's still on First Take every Monday and Tuesday. The rest of the week, just scheduled days off. So what's the truth? Is he still in the game or slowly being pushed out the back door? Well, here's the part that really makes you raise an eyebrow. Stephen A. Smith himself said he had a private sit-down with Disney's CEO, and that conversation was all about Shannon's scandal. That means the top dogs are keeping a close eye on him, and that's never a good sign. The message is loud and clear. If you cross the line even a little, Disney will not hesitate. They'll smile in your face, then cut the cord the minute you bring them bad press. And when you're up against that mouse, you better play by the rules or get played out. Now, sure, Shannon Sharpe might be mad at the network, but let's keep it real. He wasn't exactly winning Employee of the Year behind the scenes. Word is he was accused of choking a female production assistant during his time at Fox Sports. Yeah, you read that right. That was before his $50 million legal disaster even hit the headlines. This alleged incident reportedly happened while he was co-hosting Undisputed from 2016 to 2023. And guess what? Fox didn't fire him. Instead, they kept things hush-hush and quietly settled with the woman for what insiders say was several $100,000. No public statements, no big headlines, just a payout and silence. Of course, Shannon's rep jumped in to shut everything down, saying there was no incident of choking involving Shannon on the FS1 set. They brushed it off like it was all jokes, claiming it was just light physical interaction in a playful context.
I can tell you, I also spoke as co-chairman of Disney, the boss, Jimmy Pitaro, who made it very, very clear we are taking this matter very seriously, and we are looking into this very, very closely.
Really? Playful. That's the story they're sticking to. Fox Sports backed him up, at least publicly, and said they chose to resolve the situation privately. But fans ain't dumb. By now, people know better than to trust every official statement, especially when that kind of money's involved. A lot of folks still believe something happened behind the scenes, and honestly, it was wild that Fox didn't fire him then and there. But hey, that's Hollywood for you. When you're bringing in views and headlines, the rules start to bend. Still, this kind of history made it way easier for Disney and ESPN to say no thanks when his next scandal hit. Could they have kept him around despite the legal mess? Sure, they had the power to do it, but keeping Shannon would have triggered a firestorm. It wasn't worth the backlash, not when their entire brand is built on keeping things clean and family-friendly. Even Sage Steele, former SportsCenter anchor, came out swinging with her opinion on how ESPN handled the whole situation, and let's just say she wasn't holding back. So yeah, Shannon's not just battling the media, he's fighting against a long list of baggage that finally caught up to him, and Disney wasn't about to carry that load. Sage Steele didn't hold back when she took to X to air out her frustration with what she calls a broken system at ESPN. She wrote, "There's a long list of examples where ESPN or Disney considers having conservative viewpoints a bigger offense than questionable character. Boom, shots fired." And she wasn't just speaking in general. That comment came right after a tweet pointed out how ESPN has a history of not renewing contracts for women with conservative views or straight up silencing them, while someone like Shannon, who's been tied to multiple shady situations with women, somehow stuck around for a while. Like, how does that make sense? Former ESPN host Ashley Brewer-Kaminsky jumped into the convo too, and she had receipts. She said, "Never forget when I got chewed out by my boss for posting a pic of a Republican congressman and UFC fighter at the McGregor fight on my Instagram story." Seriously? That's what got her heat? She laughed it off with a big LOL, but made it very clear this wasn't some one-off. ESPN has a strict no politics policy, even off-air. It's wild considering Sage Steele got suspended just for criticizing Disney's COVID vaccine mandate. Meanwhile, Shannon was out here wrapped up in messy accusations, and they still gave him a seat at the table. So yeah, keeping him any longer would have set off a riot. Imagine all those ex-employees storming back with lawsuits for wrongful termination. The moment Disney kept Shannon, they'd be facing a legal circus from every direction. That's why ESPN had to cut him off, even if it was messy. From a business standpoint, it made total sense. And then there's Charles Barkley. Sure, he's running his mouth about retirement, refusing to play by the rules, and giving the top dogs constant migraines. But let's be real, Chuck ain't out here getting sued or wrapped up in scandals with women half his age. Compared to Shannon, Chuck's practically squeaky clean, no lawsuits, no leaked bedroom pics, no headlines that make execs squirm, just an outspoken legend who brings in ratings and calls it like he sees it. So when the big decisions come down the pipe, it's obvious Shannon's disposable, but Chuck, he's the one they'll bend over backwards to keep. Even Stephen A. knows it. Stephen A. Smith, the same man who stood by Shannon Sharpe, wasn't exactly shocked when Disney gave him the boot. When the news broke that Shannon and ESPN had mutually agreed he'd step off the airwaves, Stephen A. called it for what it was, a blow to the show, a blow to him personally. He admitted, "I'm going to miss him," but it was not a surprise. And why would it be? Stephen A. has been deep in the Disney game since 2003. He knows how the machine works. He's seen what happens behind those closed doors. And when you work for the worldwide leader in sports media, you don't just get to play by your own rules unless you're Charles Barkley. Chuck's out here doing what he wants, when he wants, and still cashing those checks. He's flipping off the rule book, ducking the programming, and somehow ESPN's still chasing him down like he's the prize. And truth is, he is. Meanwhile, Shannon's burning bridges and wondering why no one's throwing him a life raft. So yeah, Shannon can stay mad all he wants. But before he lets that anger turn into another headline, he might want to chill and ask himself why he ended up in this mess. Because if we're being honest, he didn't get done dirty. He got what was coming. But hey, that's just our take. What do you think? Does Shannon have a right to be mad, or is he just pointing fingers after fumbling the bag? And do you think he'll try to come for Charles next or stay quiet and regroup? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear from you. And if you liked this breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe, and share with your crew. We've got more wild stories, crazy scandals, and inside scoops coming your way. See you on the next one.